record, you will hear that ominous "we are now recording" voice. Awesome. We usually share, Adam and Jared, we usually share like what we're drinking if you're like having an afternoon cocktail. I actually am just drinking tea. It's not that exciting. I don't know if you guys are drinking anything.
I am drinking some fizzy water, as they may call it, some seltzer water.
Nice. I just got a Soda Stream for Christmas actually, and it's been so awesome.
Makes all of the cocktails that are adult beverages so much easier to mix.
That is true. Oh, cool. So Carolyn, Jared and Adam, you guys should be able to see the chat. So Carolyn just asked a question about, how do you actually determine where to put the solar panels for optimum input? So that can be something if you guys want to highlight in your talk. Good question.
Yeah, we can definitely touch on that.
Cool. And we'll give people another minute, and then we are going to get started.
Nice crew here tonight.
Yes. Yeah, it's been, I guess it's been a month, right, Emma?
Since we had one, yeah. It's been a while.
It's been a while. We have in Athena saying it will be a great year for solar. Definitely. Every year it just gets better.
Hopefully so. From your lips to God's ears, Crystal, from your lips.
And actually, this is maybe controversial, but I'll throw it out there because it was solar news today. But Elon Musk is now the richest person in is it the world or just the country?
World, yes.
World.
Wow.
Past Jeff Bezos.
Past Jeff Bezos, yes.
I don't know what you do with $180 billion, but last time I checked, $1 billion was $1,000 million. So.
I can't
180 of them sound pretty good right now.
I cannot even fathom what. I don't even know. I mean, I wonder with that much money, if like the average solar installation was like $20,000, like how many homes could you actually pay for to go solar? Like a lot, I would guess. Like crazy.
Yeah, like a ton.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, he should.
I'm trying to think. I recently heard a story, and I'm blanking on the actual story. I think it was a politician that was like happened to be a wealthy individual. He was proposing like this social program similar to solar or clean water, things like that. And rather than like running a whole bunch of ads and doing a whole bunch of campaigns, he just did the thing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was, but it was like, the equivalent of somebody just like going in and like redoing all the sewers and pipes in Flint and just getting it done.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Some guerrilla marketing there, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. All right. So I see we've got about 15 people here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. For Adam and Jared, this is like a very quick not even 5 minutes, like 30-second intro of Grouphug. And then I'm just going to hand it over to you guys to share your screen and do your thing. And I definitely encourage anyone who's tuned in to like you can ask questions the whole time. I will read them and interrupt Adam or Jared and ask them on your behalf. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Solar can be a very intimidating and confusing thing. And that's why we have these events, because we want to make it easier for you. So ask any question at all. So to get started, hello, welcome. This is part of Grouphug's. They used to be weekly solar talks. I think we're moving to bi-weekly because it was a little too many events for everybody. I want to give a quick shout out to Emma if she wants to wave hi.
Hey guys.
Emma is the brains behind these events. She recruits and organizes all of them. So like a virtual round of applause for Emma. These are possible because of her. If anybody has a event or topic they would like to be covered, you can also throw that in the chat and then Emma will take note of it. A really quick intro of Grouphug. So at Grouphug, we make ridiculously good looking solar panels that are easy to use. If this is the first time you're hearing about us, our first product is a window solar charger. It's a solar panel that's designed to look like home decor and hang on the inside of a sunny window. There's a built-in battery and USB port. And the reason why I designed it is because I thought that it could be a great entry point into solar. If you don't know anything, get your hands dirty with solar. And it's also functional, so you can charge your phone. And we like to say it can be your first step into solar if you know nothing. This is not a talk about Grouphug. So if you want to learn more about us, you can go to our website, grouphugsolar.com. We have some deals happening right now for the new year. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're at Grouphug Solar. We post like daily content about solar, sustainability, questions, workshops. So if you're looking for more solar content or have questions, you can reach us there. It's usually me in the DMs, so you can always DM me. And then with that, I want to dive right into Rooftop. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it on over. So Adam or Jared, whoever wants to take over.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. So, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. And let me get back up to the front here. All right. So first off, thank you, Crystal and Emma, for having us. I feel like, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I know we've been in the talks of trying to be on this. So thanks again for persisting with it. We're super happy to be here. And yeah, we're big fans of your guys' product. I think it is really good looking, and it makes solar more accessible for people that may not be able to get rooftop solar. So thank you for that. I'm Adam. I'm at Solar States. I'm our solar design manager. And this is Jared. He's, or I can let you introduce yourself, Jared.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Jared. I work with Adam at Solar States here in Philadelphia, and I'm an energy consultant. So I work with folks like you all to assess the possibilities of going solar, and hopefully we'll be able to share some information on what the design build process would be like for those of you that are interested in exploring that.
Yeah, and I think, I thought it'd be beneficial for both of us to be on here because, I do the design side and some of the more technical side of things, and Jared does the sales. So it's kind of our workflow. It goes from sales to design, and a lot of questions from the customers come, in those phases all throughout, and we kind of work together to make sure the customer's having a good experience and is informed. So I think we'll both be able to answer a lot of your questions. So a little bit about Solar States. We are a solar installation company based in Philadelphia. We've been around since we were founded in 2008, which is a lot longer than a lot of solar companies out there, especially, smaller ones. But our founder, Michael Markel, he's from Philly. He grew a really good community behind it. He was very persistent with it. And, he started an education program, which Jared will get into in a minute. But we really, have a nice home base in Philadelphia, and the residents know us. We really care about the community. And I think that's the reason why we've been around for so long, because a lot of companies have come and gone. Even Tesla or Solar City tried their hand at it. And Philly's a very complex area to install solar because of the nature of the city and all of the, the difficulty of roof access in homes and other things like that. But we want to provide Philly with solar energy, and there's a lot of people that want it that years ago were turned down from it, from other companies. And, we want to let people know that we're here to do the harder installation, simple, whatever it may be. We want to come up with a solution for you. And we're, speaking to that, we're a B Corp. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's essentially, I guess you can call it a standard where it's for, I think it's people, profit, and planet. So it's companies that don't necessarily just care about their bottom line or making a profit, but also meet certain metrics to show that they're helping the community, that they're paying like livable wage, that they have a diverse workplace. Well, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And, you know, we're really proud to be a B Corp because it shows people that we, you know, we're not just saying that we're about the environment or the community, we really can put metrics to that. So it's a really awesome community to be a part of. There's a lot of ones in Philly that we work with all the time. So that's been, you know, really great for us. And so, yeah, for anyone.
And that kind of dovetails nicely into the second half of the slide here, which I'm going to explain. Not to cut you off, Adam, but
yeah, go for it. It's all you.
You know, one of the parts of being part of the community and something that we've kind of is a deep part of our mission is, and this applies for solar companies all around the country and communities all around the country, is really the access, equitability, and inclusion of solar throughout our communities, whether they're socioeconomic or race driven. And so a big part of our efforts here are driving workforce development. So in addition to being a solar installer, we also are a solar educator. And so in part, we do that through webinars like this, where we educate folks that could potentially be solar homeowners. But we also run educational programs, and probably primarily the majority of our educational efforts are training folks to work in the solar industry, what we call green collar jobs. And so we train folks to be installers, to be technicians, to do service and maintenance, sales, permitting, all different types of aspects of the industry, in hopes that not only are we bringing equitability to the industry and helping this become something that everybody in our community can be a part of, but also building the necessary manpower to continue the growth that we all hope and need for systemic transition to a sustainable economy. And so that's a particular point of pride for us, something that if you're in a community outside of Philadelphia and you think that's something that might be good for your town or your city, we've done a lot of legwork in building curriculums and working with partner organizations, both public and private, to bring that to the masses. It's definitely something that goes unnoticed in the grand scheme of things. So feel free to, you know, chat with us after or on the side, and we can maybe share some info and resources about that stuff.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. Show away these pictures, Adam.
Yeah. So before we get into some of the details and everything, I just want to get people a little excited with some of our photography and some of our cooler installations. So actually how we got connected is through an Instagram I started called Solar of a City, where we feature, you know, some drone photography that we took of installations, and Crystal reached out to me. And really, I just, with that Instagram, that website, I kind of wanted to help show people that, you know, solar is happening out there in the city, even if it's really not easy to see, right? Because it's multiple stories up and you walk down the street and you really don't know that it's most of the time that it's happening. I wanted to make people aware that, you know, there's hundreds of installations in the city that we've done, and that, you know, we want people to feel that it's actually out there and that it's not just, you know, kind of talk and everything like that. So anyway, it was kind of just more like an art type of thing, but here's some of our cooler installations. We have on the right, that's the Crane Arts building in Philadelphia. That was our first installation, pretty big commercial project. And our office is actually in the back, that bright red building behind that, that stands out pretty good. That's us back there, which unfortunately, you know, we're shut down right now. We're working remotely, but for good reason. And then here's some other cool projects. So we have, as I mentioned before, we kind of want to cater to the needs of the city, and we work on a lot of custom projects and just unique projects that other people may not take on. On the left hand side is a solar, I guess, awning, and that was a really cool installation for us. We've done solar canopies, we've done ground mount systems. We've done batteries that associated with solar, all sorts of different custom projects. So really, there's a lot of ways that you can, from like window chargers to awnings, there's so many different ways that you can make it work for your house. And it just all depends on, your like what your home is conducive to.
That solar awning is so cool. I don't think I had seen that picture from you guys yet. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we were super. This is the only one we've done. Actually, yeah, I think it's the only one we've done so far. I think we have a few more in the works. It's a Sunmoto product, and yeah, it was a new construction, and the house was reinforced for it structurally and all that. So not to say every house, an older home could potentially, be capable of it, but yeah, that was a really, really cool.
Like I imagine walking down the street, like I live in Brooklyn, and just like every store awning could be that.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a lot more opportunity. I mean, a lot of people in Philly come to us with that and say, like want it on a wall or something because there's not a lot of roof space, and so it opens up a lot more opportunity for sure.
Cool.
And then on the right, just like kind of one of our custom projects where we have, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but our ballasted racking systems, which actually are weighted down on the roof as opposed to being directly attached to the roof rafters or structure. And we just had to kind of do there's two different configurations there. As you can see, some are facing east and west and some are facing just south. And that with this installation, we just had to do what we had to be able to try to max out the roof for the customer. So those are just a few for you. And I'll pass it back to Jared for some, to kind of talk about some intros to residential solar.
Great. Thanks, Adam. And, I will talk here in this slide to a question from Carolyn about the positioning of solar panels. And as I'm going through here, I think I'll be able to knock off some question from Kristen about power purchase agreements. Dave, you had a great question in the Q&A about grid-tied solar. And I believe we had one additional question here. Let me just see. Make sure that I get my about white roofs from Tony, which I'll also try to address. So what you're seeing here are some software tools that we use when we're doing a preliminary assessment. And this is pretty common for any solar installer. On the left is an image from a website called Google Project Sunroof. And this is a free resource that you guys can use as well, and gals.
Sorry about that.
That's a tool that gives you a really high level overview of what roof may be viable for solar at your home. You can kind of see there bright yellow and orange are positive, darker orange and purple are negative. Generally speaking, what we're looking for in America is roofs that are facing south. And the reason is because since we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun, irregardless of if it's summer or winter, is always in our southern sky. And so in the winter, it's lower in the sky. In the summer, it's more directly above head. But getting strong solar penetration is going to allow us to have really high energy efficiency and make the cost of the solar panels more economical. And so you can kind of see a more elaborate tool on the right, which is a professional software that we use, one of many, where we can map out the solar panels on the roof around different types of obstacles like dormers and eaves. And each of those aspects is kind of set in place as to height and pitch. You can see in the very bottom corner, we're modeling in a tree. So that's a process that a lot of solar companies will go through upfront in order to give you a customized estimate of how much energy the system is going to generate. And so, Adam, if you could switch to that next slide there, we can talk a little bit to, energy being generated. So as David kind of alluded to in his question, there are two different types of solar arrays, a grid-tied solar array and an off-grid solar array. And the vast majority of solar arrays are grid-tied. And depending on what state you're in, there may be different regulations that influence that decision. Some states you're not allowed to be grid tied, or if you are grid tied, there are certain constraints to it that may offer various design considerations as to how many solar panels, whether or not you place a battery in the system, these types of things. But generally speaking, a concept that's important to understand in largely states where solar is very popular is in place is a concept called net metering. And I think this graph kind of gives us a good sense of that. So essentially you have some some energy for your home coming from the solar panels. And that energy is going into your electric panel and energizing your home directly. It's called self-consumption. Your computers, your refrigerator, your clocks, radios. Extra energy that's generated during the day is then distributed either to a battery or to the grid. And when it goes to the grid, you build up a bank of credits typically. And that does vary state to state, but here in Pennsylvania, you bank up credits in kilowatt hours so that at night, rather than purchasing energy, you're using the credits of energy that you previously generated from your solar array. And so in that regard, irregardless of whether or not it's during the day or night, whether it's in September or February, you're kind of sizing your solar energy production to your annual energy consumption. And so, as it relates to, is grid tied an easier way to go solar, David's question, well, yeah, it is, because rather than spending a whole bunch of money on batteries, or rather than losing a whole bunch of potential roof space and energy that you otherwise would not be able to use during the day, you're able to kind of capture all of the potential energy in the solar, irregardless of when it's created and when it's used. And so that's a major regulation and mechanism that helps make solar really cost effective. And while we do care tremendously about the environment and about our social responsibility, the quality of our living, energy independence, all important things to put dollar values on. At the end of the day, a lot of folks are trying to figure out, is solar a cost-effective economic solution? And by most regards, yes, it is. Here in Pennsylvania, home of coal country and now the Marseille Shale, we compete with very, very low energy rates. And even in that marketplace, we're doing a great job. Most solar equipment is warranted for 25 years. And so that's the benchmark that we place when we think about what the value of the solar panels is compared to purchasing energy from a utility company. And here in Pennsylvania, with very low energy rates, folks are going to see that crossover for their payments on the solar array at about 10 years. And so I can kind of get a little bit into one additional question from Kirsten in this regard as it pertains to a power purchase agreement. So just to be clear, Solar States is a company that installs systems that homeowners own, either through a cash payment upfront or through a loan. So I'm no expert in a PPA, a power purchase agreement, but I can explain a little bit of my understanding. Power purchase agreement essentially is a company saying, hey, instead of you buying a solar array, we're going to buy the solar array. And in turn for us letting you use our energy, we're going to ask that we can borrow your roof. And so no cost to you, we're going to put this solar array on your house. And instead of paying the utility company, you're going to pay us because we're the ones generating the energy with our solar panels. And that's how we're going to get our money back. And you can imagine that on scale, doing this on hundreds, if not thousands of homes nationwide or regionally, they can really bring down their costs of material and labor and permitting and all of these things. And so it's a great way for a lot of folks to go solar with very little money down and with very little risk. I would argue that a loan is very similar, kind of like cars, right? A lease and a loan, similar, different pluses and minuses. One of the big pluses to a lease is that it's not your equipment, so it's not necessarily your responsibility. One of the things that I caution folks when they're looking at power purchase agreements is what the terms of that agreement really are, because a company could take advantage of you. I once heard a story about a somewhat nefarious company that was saying that in the case of a snowstorm, when snow is covering your solar panels and they're not generating energy, well, we're gonna count that as energy that you're buying from us, even if it's not energy that you're getting. So that seemed really unfair to me. But there's a lot of companies out there that are doing really great work. And quite honestly, the power purchase agreement is what allowed financial markets and financial institutions to really see that solar lending was a viable thing. And that's what brought about the solar loan. So without power purchase agreements and those early adopters, we really wouldn't have the diversity of financing options that we currently have. Most people were going to their local bank and taking a personal loan. Now, 15-minute loan application with a 650 credit score gets you qualified for a solar loan that's written against the solar panels as the primary asset. And it's a very easy way to finance things. So enough about the money there. Let's keep moving on to a couple of the additional slides. So
and
there's
then
a couple
Jared,
things
sorry,
here.
I'm just going to interrupt for a small second. And I think the fact that people have questions about the money, I think is great. If people have more questions about the financing, like let us know, because we can always get like a PPA person to do a webinar for you guys. And I think, like Jared said, there are a lot of details in PPAs that like even I don't feel comfortable giving the advice on.
Right.
So, you know, we can get an expert to talk about it. But I think, you know, to Jared's kind of summary, the thing that people should wrap their minds around is there's kind of like 3 basic ways to buy solar. You can buy it outright and own it. You can get on a loan program where you have payments to own it, or you can lease, or I guess lease and PPA seem like different things to me. I actually don't know if that's technically true or not.
I believe technically it is true, but I believe most of the time in a residential setting, when you're talking about a lease, it's a PPA.
Okay, got it. So there's
more specific
like
and commercial.
There's these 3 basic ways that you can finance your solar system, and I think there's a lot of details to each one, obviously. But I think the greater point is that you can go solar with a variety of budgets, and you don't. There's kind of a stigma that you like need $20,000 to go solar, which is really not true a lot of the times if you can qualify for some programs. So if people have the financial questions, definitely drop them in the chat. We might not answer them today, but it would be great to know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, great point. And you know what? You just kind of reminded me of something. You know, there's a couple analogies and a couple little tricks that I talk to folks about when they're thinking about that. Because you're right, $20,000 does sound like a lot of money, right? Think about how long you've been in your home. Let's say you've been in your home 10 years. And go look at your electric bill. Maybe it's $150, $200, and start doing the math. See what $150 a month times 12 months a year times 8, 10, 12 years is. And you'll quickly find that you've spent $20,000 paying your utility company. And to that end, you know, it's very much similar to the way that you decided to take a mortgage out and purchase a home rather than renting. A solar array is an investment in your property, in your bills, the economics, and of course the planet primarily. So, you know, all of those things are kind of ways to think about this, what appears to be a big upfront cost where, hey, you can get into a loan or a PPA with no money down, and you're paying the same payments that you otherwise would be paying, or less, hopefully, for what you would otherwise be buying. You know, compared to a lot of things that you purchase, right? A lot of times when you purchase something, you don't lose an expense. It's you spend money to get it and then you have it. In this case, you spend money to get a solar array, but you now lose your electric bill. So, you know, it's kind of, you're making a trade-off of sorts.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. It's Zoom. This is not my first time, I promise. And then Jared, just as a quick time check, I know we got a bit of a late start, but if you want to keep going, I'm going to stop interrupting you. And we usually try to end like 7:45, between 7:50, so that we can leave 10 minutes for more questions.
Great. So real quickly, I just kind of wanted to note that one of the things that's really important to understand about solar and the financing aspects of things is a couple programs that you'll find around the country, predominantly the federal tax credit. Really great news around the federal tax credit. Essentially, the federal tax credit allows you to recoup 26% of the total cost of an installation. So for every $10,000 spent, $2,600 that you spend for the array comes back to your pocket through your federal taxes. This was set to be sunsetting over the next few years, and just 2 weeks ago, or last week rather, in the COVID stimulus package, they extended that through to 2023. So when we talk about solar always getting better, remember that some of these incentive programs are what make it so great, and they could be going away. Thankfully, it's been extended, and hopefully more things will be to come. An SREC program, probably none of you have heard of something like that. I see Crystal nodding her head, so maybe she's heard of it. You probably all have heard of a carbon credit or offsetting carbon footprint. These are typically state programs that are cap and trade that allow you to recoup some money and hold large polluters accountable for their pollution and CO2 emissions. A great way to also offset the cost of solar. And then lastly, there's municipal programs, and kind of alluded to this. All around the country, municipalities, government agencies, private entities are funding grants, are providing rebates, doing various programs similar to the Solarize Philly program here, which does all of these things to make solar accessible and more affordable. And so, make sure to just kind of check that on your local level, because any added money that you can get back would be great. So Adam, if you could switch down to the next slide, please. Real quickly, I just wanted to kind of show you a little mock-up of some of the equipment that we work with. Largely, there's a lot to talk about equipment, whether it's solar panels, inverters, racking, monitoring. There's different choices that meet different homeowners' needs, but you should make sure to go through those options and determine what's best for you given those aspects. And Adam's going to talk a little bit more about that as it pertains to the actual design and building process. And that's really, in my opinion, where his expertise comes in working with our clients to really hear their goals and try and make the proper recommendation. So I think is there maybe one more slide here, Adam, before you get into the design process? So, I'll just really quickly talk a little bit about timeline. Solar is a unique industry, and timelines can vary from 3 months from contract signing to installation all the way out to 10 months or a year. We hold ourselves kind of in the middle there at 5 or 6 months, and I think it's the sign of a really healthy company. It gives us a pipeline and a backlog to really do quality work and to not have the fear that our teams are going to run out of projects in the future. But the real part that you need to understand with solar arrays, we have this very simple concept, is that we're working with lots of entities. The first step for a grid-tied system, getting interconnection with a utility. Next, putting together a permit pack, applying to municipal agencies for electrical and building permits. And, you can imagine how these things are not necessarily straightforward. They're not very quick contemporary bodies. Often there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape, lots of opportunities for delays. And so, just keeping that in mind, when you're spending a significant amount of money or when you're doing a home improvement project like this, 6 months is relatively short in the grand scheme of a 25-year solution. And, so these are the steps that we go through in order to install the process. And Adam's going to speak a little bit more to kind of the latter half of that and kind of some of the details there.
And then Jared, just a really quick vocabulary thing. What does interconnection mean? For folks,
that's a great question.
Because I think it's kind of a weird word. So just for folks that might not know what that means.
I'm so deep into it here. I sometimes forget what folks might not know. So interconnection essentially is the process that anybody goes through when they connect to a grid. And so you go through an interconnection or a new service application when you build a house and when you have a meter. And so when we put an energy producing system on somebody's roof, essentially a miniature power plant, we have to notify the utility company, hey, energy is going to be flowing into the grid at this location. And they need to approve that and say, hey, at this location, we're okay accepting that much energy. And we think that our lines and our transformers and our substations can handle it. And so that is often a tricky and, somewhat delicate process, depending on where you're living and such. And so maybe that answers the question.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
So take it away, Adam.
Awesome.
You can talk a little bit more about this technical stuff here. Now I
Yeah.
can sit back and enjoy my fizzy water.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jared. Yeah, and I'll try to run through it quickly because you said at probably about 7:45, Crystal, that we probably want to.
Yeah, I would say 7:45, 7:50. You just want to leave some room so that people can ask you guys questions.
Gotcha. Yep. So I won't get too into the technical details here, but just some things that kind of we think about as a solar company that apply to your system that may impact the cost of your system, efficiency of it. So essentially, I mean, all solar companies seem to have a little bit of a different process for this. As Jared showed you before, like the person on most solar companies will design off of with a software and use satellite imagery and get a pretty good idea of how many panels you can fit, look and see kind of the orientation of your roof, how efficient it's going to be. But in reality, you know, we really want to get those details on site. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not from a satellite image, we're not missing a vent. We're not, we're making sure that we can pick the right racking system for you. We definitely want to make sure that we're getting on site and making sure that everything is what we think it's going to be when we go into the installation. There's a lot of factors that, you know, we think about, the customer will have to think about as well. So just starting with the roof, the quality of the roof is really important. You know, they call it like solar ready home. So ideally we would like your roof to be, you know, had been replaced or recoated, you know, within the last 10 years. You know, anything more than that and lower quality roofs with shingles missing and things like that, you know, aren't going to be conducive to a very good solar installation and can, you know, leave your roof more vulnerable. And obviously, if you want this system on there, as long as, you know, the panels are warranted 25 years, you want to make sure that you get your roof work done before you put the solar panels on there. Although, you know, we've always can come out, you know, for other customers we've quoted to come out and, you know, replace, you know, take the panels off and have them replace it. But I don't, you know, I wouldn't recommend it personally. As far as roof structure, you know, this is something the solar installer will be looking at for you, but just making sure your roof is structurally sound to fit to handle the added weight of your solar array. We usually don't have too much of an issue with attachment systems that you're attaching directly to the rafters, partially because, you know, the roofs are more pitched and the weight isn't directly coming down on your roof, also because you don't have these heavy ballast blocks. So, you know, roof structure is another important thing. Just layout and configuration. So, you know, how crowded is your roof with obstructions? And sometimes, you know, when it comes to roof work, we'll have people like to move vents and other things to kind of allow for more solar panels to fit on there. When it comes to the pitch and racking systems, you know, we have our ballasted systems, which we can't put on any roof. And as far as I know, there's no ballasted system that you can put on a roof over 7 degrees of pitch. So once it starts to pitch too much, then you have to attach to your roof rafters just structurally. And, you know, now I guess a lot of people I feel like are, you know, putting it on suburban homes that are, you know, more pitched roofs. So that's not really always, you know, an option. But in Philadelphia, we do install a lot of ballasted systems and fixed tilt systems that are like 5 degree, like we try to put on like, you know, a home that let's say between 5 and 10 degrees pitched south. So we can kind of fit some panels on there and use the ballasted system, but as well as get a little bit more production from the system. So.
I'd love to just interrupt. I think sometimes people hear you can't go solar. And sometimes people mean we will not install a solar system at your house. And that happens often on flat roofs or complicated roofs. And make sure to get a second opinion, because folks like Adam are out there making it happen every day. And that's, you know, there's companies like ours that are specialists. So all great points, Adam.
And while we're interrupting you, Adam, I wanted to call out Tony's question, which was, does the color of your roof matter for solar? Like, is a white roof better for solar, or a black roof? Or I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, a white roof and like a silver coated roof or a white coated roof are better for, I guess, for its reflective properties and the cooling of the roof and everything like that. So yes, we work with like a guy in Philly called like Be Cool Roofing, and he's like, I think we've kind of helped his business a lot, because like we're always bringing referrals. And so yeah, I would say if you have the option, definitely go with a white coat or a silver coat on your roof. Good question.
Got it. Thank you.
And especially if you have bifacial panels, which have cells on the top and bottom, you're definitely going to capture more of that reflective aspect. In a bifacial.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Grouphug panels are bifacial.
They're not. They're not bifacial. They're one-sided but transparent. So I actually, if you guys can see, so I'm just at home. So this is where I work. This is my Grouphug panel. So what Adam and Jared are talking about bifacial is when you have solar cells on the front and the back of the panel. So we technically just have them on the front and you can see the back, but there's no front-facing cells on the back. I think for us, just cost-wise, we weren't getting enough sunlight back to make it worth it to have double cells. But I think, to Adam's point, like if you're doing like a parking garage or something like that where they're really in the sun and reflecting, it's totally worth it. And I think bifacial just looks super beautiful. When you walk under them, you can see the cells, and yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, really. Bifacials are super cool. So I'll try to, speed this up even more. Actually, I think I skipped ahead a little bit as far as like the efficiency of the panels. I'll just explain that a little bit. So Jared kind of talked about how we want to be south facing. Beyond that, there's a certain pitch of the panels or tilt that is optimal. So like, it depends on your latitude and as far as what pitch you would want it to be at. I believe around here it's about 35 degrees. So the closer we can get to that, the more efficient your system is going to be. And usually, if we have a system that's a ground mount where you have the flexibility to install whatever pitch you want, like it would be something around that. Whereas if you're putting it on a flat roof, if you're just going to be putting them flush mount like the photo I have here, then it's going to be less efficient. Whereas like some of our ballasted systems will go up to 5 and 10 degrees where you'll get a little bit more efficiency out of it. As far as the interconnection options, so the most common way to connect your solar back into your for a grid tied system back to the grid is through circuit breakers. So you put backfeed circuit breakers that will allow the power to flow back through your panel, back through the meter, and back to the grid. So that is commonly what we would see. But for a lot of people out there, I wouldn't want them to think that if they don't have breaker space at their house, that would rule them out, or they would have to get a panel upgrade. At least in Philadelphia, in the areas we work, we can do an alternate option, which is called it's called kind of it's a little bit technical, but a line side tap. And essentially what you do is you have a connector that pierces your conductor that's coming into your main service panel, and it branches off an own circuit for solar. So if you don't have breaker spaces, you can actually have this alternate option there. And I won't go into that in too much depth, but there are different options out there for if you don't have a new panel or breaker space. And then making sure it's up to code compliance. We don't want to be installing that's on anything that's unsafe, and we want to make sure the homeowner, we've seen some pretty unsafe conditions when we've gone out to a home for our site survey, and we'll tell the homeowner right away that they should get this replaced and up to code. Other things we have to worry about, inverters, they convert the energy from DC to AC, so it's going to be used in your home and on the grid. There's different options for that as far as, microinverters that each panel has its own inverter, or a central inverter where it's all coming to on multiple, circuits into one big inverter. There's pluses and minuses of both. I won't get into that right now. As far as, and one important thing I think a homeowner should definitely know about is the emergency disconnect switch, where a lot of, it's at least in Philadelphia and a lot of areas that I know, maybe it might be nationwide, you need to have an emergency shutoff switch, usually at ground level, and that's easily accessible, where if emergency responder is coming, they can flip this switch and shut the power off from the roof or from the solar panels. And a lot of homeowners don't like that because they're like, hey, I don't want this gray box in the front of my house, blah, blah, blah. And I've had a lot of conversations with them, but in reality, it's out of our hands for one. And, I think it's a good thing to have that safety feature there. And I think, we're helping out our someone coming in for an emergency, something like that. So I think, even though it may not look that great, you might not be that happy about it, know that it's for an important cause. And, I know a lot of people are kind of taken back by that, but it's a good thing. And then a little bit more, we, also when we go out on site, we try to figure out, we have our way to model shading and trees, buildings around the roof surface, so we can kind of see, try to really give you a realistic estimate of how much your solar system is going to produce, because that is an estimate, and there's a lot of softwares out there that do that. But if there's a big tree to the south of your house that's going to be shading it all the time, we're going to run through our numbers and recommend that you don't likely put solar there. And there's a lot of, there could be buildings around, so like it's our job to kind of accurately depict that and get and capture that information on site. As well as anything like notes on costs, like roof access. So just one easy example, if it's a 4-story home and we can only get to the home, to the roof with a lift to lift our people up to safely get to the roof, then, those type of things are going to add cost to the project. And, they're, depending on the difficulty of the job, really does impact, we come in with a baseline cost, and then we have different things that could add difficulty, that add cost to the project. So, if you see some things like that happening, it's because, it costs more on our end to install the solar array. And last one, really quickly, just wanted to give a shout out to another awesome company I think they're out of Brooklyn as well, called Scanify. And this just kind of shows that this is our design tool. We actually use drones to take like 100, 200 photos around your house in multiple different ways. And we upload it to a software that's specifically for solar. And this picture right here is actually, this isn't a photo, like one photograph. This is a model created from this software. And we can actually design right on your house this way. We can put different types of panels that look different so the homeowner can see it. And this is like when I talked about production modeling before, this is really advanced because like the chimney there, trees around, this will all automatically take that into account and estimate your production. And that, from my time in the solar industry, almost 3 years, like this was last year that we implemented, or 2020, we implemented this, and it's really grown. And like you're starting to see these companies that are really specialized in helping push things forward. And that will really overall help the customer because they'll better know what it's going to look like, what their system's going to produce, and that kind of thing. So, there's some really cool things that the industry kind of is seeing right now that are taking it to the next level.
That's amazing. And Adam, you fly the drones yourself, right?
I used to. Now we have someone. Now I'm kind of in the more managerial, in the office. We're so busy where I'm designing things in the office now, where I don't as much anymore. Although I like to get out there and do it when I can. But yeah, I started out as the one that was flying the drones. And
so if anyone wants a career in solar, you could be a drone flyer.
I'm a licensed FAA remote pilot for drones, so it's definitely a good career path. And I've gotten opportunities for photography and that, so there's a lot of different ways you can make money from it, and also like you said, it's a career that most people don't know that they
Yeah, that's amazing. And Emma, you're a senior at Drexel. You could be a professional drone flyer.
Yeah, man. Gotta get hired after I graduate.
Yeah, it's a good skill. It's a lot of fun too, and the customers love it. So it's a win. It's been huge for us not to have to go with multiple people and larger ladders. It's really is a big thing for us with safety, where we don't have to worry about going on roofs all the time. It saves us a lot of time. There's endless benefits to it.
Yeah. So Adam and Jared, I actually have a couple rapid fire questions for you,
Yeah,
like a speed round of questions. And then David asked a really good question. Adam, if you don't mind unsharing for a second.
Yep. And
I have like a really quick list of basically from Grouphug, we get a ton of questions through customer service and Instagram, and these are some of the most common ones that I compiled. You guys answered a lot of them already, but I do want to. I almost hit share. I always do that. I do want to bring up a couple of them. So Adam, I'm not going to read through the ones that you are already answered. So you guys all covered that. Okay, so I get this question all the time. You guys might get this too. So the question is, if I have solar on my house and there is a power outage in my area, do I have power? Adam or Jared? Whoever wants to take it, like a 30-second answer.
Short answer is no. Long answer is, if you have batteries, yes.
There you go. Okay, that was perfect. What's the deal with batteries? So Jared actually answered this. So Jared, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Ultimately, batteries are the mechanism that's going to transition our economy and our global society to renewable energy. Just like coal sits in a big pile, solar energy and wind energy sits in a battery. That's why large companies are investing so much research and development to making them more cost effective, to building them to scale. We're going to see a lot happening with batteries in the next 5 years. Super exciting. Keep following it. Lots of different types of batteries out there.
Wait, I'm going to move to the next one because we're almost out of time. So, so I don't know if this is controversial for you guys. You're welcome to say an answer or pass. I get this question a lot. Are there solar panel brands you recommend? Do you guys have like an exclusive brand, or do you switch brands, or you can say pass?
I'll say I think you should make sure you're always getting a tier 1 panel. That's a quality standard. I think once you go past there, there's a lot of different pros and cons to stuff. We work a lot with LG. They happen to have a great product line offering and a great warranty. I'm also a big fan of Made in America. So a lot of solar panels with import-export taxes and tariffs have now been assembled in America. So I look for brands that do that as well.
And then just so that we provide different perspectives, I think everyone who's been to previous webinars know that I'm a big fan of SunPower. Like, we use SunPower cells in our product. SunPower and LG are both tier 1 panels. I think I like LG too. Like, I think they're both great monocrystalline panels, great warranties. And I think if you're going solar and you don't know what brand to pick, like Jared said, do your research. They're not all the same. So I would say definitely do your research, and the warranties really matter is what I would say. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
100%. I think, the tier 1 and the warranty are the two big things. Outside of that, you can get some premium modules that could be 1 or 2% more efficient, but there isn't major differences there. So, a lot of people are under the misconception that, there could be a big jump there in efficiency. And typically, if you have a larger system, 1% could matter a lot. But if you have a smaller residential home, that doesn't matter that much, in my opinion.
Okay. And then this is one I get a lot too. So this is actually my last one. And then I want to go to David's. A lot of solar companies do door knocking, like as a way to do sales and marketing. And I think sometimes people are turned off by that. Like I get emails from people just being like, these people, I think it's actually really aggressive in New Jersey specifically. And I get people who are like, oh, people keep knocking on my door. Like I want to go solar, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get scammed, or like I'm afraid of picking the wrong company, basically. So curious, maybe Adam, maybe I'll kick this to you. Since Derek answered some earlier ones, like what are some things you think people should look for in a solar partner?
I think, honestly, I think, sometimes like smaller is better. Like, I'm not saying the bigger companies aren't doing a good job, but, a lot of times we see that the bigger companies aren't as close to the attention to detail as a company like us that really cares about the community and really is held to a certain higher standard, because, there's nowhere for us to go really. And I would say this might not be applicable to everyone, but this is a really good way to tell, or for some people, but we're in a part of a solar co-op called Amicus, and I'll put that in the chat. And I think there's like 60 something solar companies throughout the US that are part of this co-op, and they've been vetted by the founders of it. And they work in different areas, and we share information as far as, different ways to install. We don't really act as competitors because we're in different areas.
There's a great one out in Arizona. I know one of our attendees was out there.
Yeah, so I would look at Amicus's website and look at what solar companies are a part of it, and if there are some, one in your area, I definitely believe that they would be an honest and good company. So that's a really good way to tell. And outside of that, reviews, look at multiple websites for reviews. We have really good reviews because
how long they've been in business.
Right, that too. So
yeah. And then I think Adam and Jared are being a little diplomatic. So I'm not a solar installer, so I feel like I can say this. The big people they're talking about are like Sunrun, Tesla, right? I'm assuming you don't have to, you can nod or deny, but it's like big national chains versus like a small local company who's been in the business for decades and is really personal with their customers. So I think, if you want to have that really good customer service, have one person to call and be able to talk to about your install. We're going for a smaller company really makes a huge difference.
And quality matters. This is something on your roof for 25 years. Sometimes people get caught up in $1,000 here or there for a savings that ultimately is going to cost them a lot of headache and money in the future.
Right. And yeah, just to add on to that point with one last thing. I think we're most definitely usually not the cheapest company competing out there, but, it's because we're smaller, because we take our time, we're, more careful about our installations. I would definitely caution on going for the cheapest solution. I think that's a surefire way to, of something to look out for, to raise a red flag of like, why is this company offering cheaper rates? So, if, like Jared said, if it's the difference between a few $1,000s or whatever it may be, you may not be able to do that. But if you really want to make a good investment, a little money can go a long way with your solar system, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last question, just to close it out, I know we're a little over, but we'll have the recording that we can share. David asks, what do you guys think the next big thing in solar will be? If you each want to say something, and then we'll wrap it up.
I got mine, Adam. I don't know if you got yours.
I hope you don't have the same ones, mate, but go for it.
All right. No, you go ahead first.
I'll kind of speak to what we already talked about, but, I think it is somewhat actually not solar, but batteries. And I feel like, with battery costs coming down and companies getting more familiar with them and people getting more familiar with them, it will be a really great way to, produce power at night during outages in the wintertime. We see a lot of development going on there with, new products coming out and getting better. So we really believe in the next few years that that's going to be a lot more mainstream.
I'll wrap it up really quick. I know we're running a little late. There's a great product that is slated to come out this spring called an IQ7. It's a N-phase microinverter product that will allow folks that are on a grid-tied system without a battery to still have backup power from their solar panels during the day. And so it's kind of a medium solution for folks that don't have a lot of money for a battery, but want some backup resiliency in those outages. Maybe just get the fridge running for a couple hours. And so that's something that I know a lot of my customers are looking for. A lot of customers wish they could have. And hopefully that'll be coming out this spring and provide a little added resiliency. I think it's going to be a big step for solar.
That's amazing. And actually, a funny anecdote, a friend of mine is really into like buying and trading stocks, which I'm not very proficient in. But she mentioned, she was like, I bought some solar stock. It's called Enphase. And I was like, I know what that is. Like, oh my God.
A lot of money, I think.
A lot of people, yeah. This is not financial advice, but it has been, Enphase has really been growing in hype. Like I've been seeing a lot about them recently in the news.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost exclusively Enphase right now. They make a good product. And just a quick correction, it's IQ7-8 for people that are looking for that. With IQ7 or IQ8, sorry, not IQ7.
Right. Whoops.
But
no one would have known that except for you guys, so it's okay.
Well, someone's looking it up.
That's okay. Emma, do you have any questions that you want to add?
I don't think so. We really covered some exciting stuff.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming and sharing your expertise. I'm always happy to refer people to you guys. I hope that some of those will work out for you. I think, the Grouphug audience is pretty national. We actually have sold in 49 out of the 50 states at this point. We are missing North Dakota. If there's anyone in North Dakota, I got
family there. I'll hook you up, Crystal.
I will just send them one for free, just so that we can say that we did it.
Does that count as sold?
That's true. And I
just wanted to say thank you guys for showing like Philly houses. It was super cool to see the stuff that I see every day, but from the top. And I didn't know that you could possibly do solar around here. So it was really cool to see something so local.
Let's get some solar over at on the Drexel campus there.
Yeah. We should. We totally should. Well, thank you guys so much. And we'll be posting this to YouTube for anyone who missed it. So stay tuned and have a good night.
Awesome. Thanks again for having us.
Thanks, guys.